and I heard, you need to write a book. And I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not even a good writer.
Hello, Creative Soul. If you need a guide to find your way back to your best self so that you can manifest your biggest dream, or you're interested in writing a book that can be of service, then please keep watching, because here is the incredible Julie Reisler, who I'm going to be having a conscious conversation with today. Julie is host of the Youest You podcast. She's also author of Get a PhD in You. Julie is also a master life coach, or should I say, interior designer for your soul. And that's how Julie and I connected. She was the interior designer for my soul last year, and my soul is incredibly grateful for her being in my life. Julie, yum, thank you so much for joining me.
My cheeks are already hurting so much from smiling. They're up to my eyes. Like, if you're watching, I can't smile anymore. I've been smiling since we got on together, and I'm so excited to be here. You're a gem. You're just a very special soul on this planet.
Julie, I would love to start with your book, because there are a couple of things that really strike me about it. I really want to talk about how your intuition was there, like saying, you've got to write this book. And I also want to talk about how you really decided on the title for the book.
I had decided to start my own business. I was a single mom at the time. I decided to leave my day job with benefits. And if anyone has ever done like the corporate thing, it was kind of a big deal. And that was intuitively led. I had heard, and for me, it's often just a voice, a sense, it's usually kind of a voice that sounds like me, and that is very calm, and that typically is like very, very short, sweet, and to the point. And it was like, you need to start your own thing. You need to coach. You need to leave this job. And I've learned through life to listen to that. And so I started my own business, and it was about 6 months in. Gabrielle, I had 2 coaching clients at the time. That's where I started. I used to teach Pilates and other fitness kinds of beautiful movement classes. And I had, classes that I was doing that. And I thought, all right, I'm just going to ask. For me, it's always asking my higher self, the divine, what do you want me to do? And I remember asking that question in journaling. And I heard, you need to write a book. And I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not even a good writer. Like, hello. I was told I was flowery. I was very flowery. Like, I have a lot of, extra words. I'm very, verbose. And so I use a lot of words. I know this about myself. And so I thought, are you kidding? I literally said to this voice, okay, that's funny. Next. And so for a year, while I started my business, for a full year, I would ask myself, I do a lot of this kind of 2-way intuitive journaling where I'll ask a big question and then I journal. I just kind of pause and ask the divine, my higher self, whatever you call that, to come in and to guide me. And I kept hearing over and over and over again, it's like time to write a book. You need to write a book. You've got to share what you've learned. And long story short, a very dear friend who had written a book, we were meeting for coffee, and I had said to her, like, I'm so excited for you. Like, do you have any tips? Like, how did you do this? And this is the thing that cracks me up, because it's really what made the difference. She took out a napkin. We were at a Starbucks, whatever it was, took out a napkin and like drew a big flower. And she showed me, she said, just start with a flower. And I'm like, you are now talking my language, girl, because I love flowers. This is left brain. This is like, more of that creativity. I should say more of that right brain creativity. And she's like, look, just start with the flower. In the middle is what you're talking about. And then the chapter ideas, and just outline it like that. And I needed that. I'm somebody who's not very linear. So I went home that night. I took out a piece of paper and I drew a flower. And I kid you not, the title, the chapter names, it was like the most bizarre thing. It wrote itself. And I spent, and this is important to say this, I wrote my book by hand, and I did it over 9 months, which I believe is significant. 9 months is the time we create humans. and this felt like a baby. And I bought myself a special notebook that had very open, like no lines on the pages. And I drew big bubbles on each page to look like clouds. This is legit what I did. And I would write every morning like I was journaling. I'd light a candle and I just pretended I was journaling. And that's how I wrote it. And it was definitely a pain in the ass to type out, but worth it because it came from that soul place. But it took me a year.
You said the title and the chapters came straight away. Like I was like secretly quite jealous about that. As I suspect there will be many people watching this. So do you have a sense of how that came? Because so let me give you some context. I'm at a place, my book is coming out early next year, and I've been writing this book for a decade. And do I have a title? No. So I'm sitting here going, how did she have that title? How did she know that, you know, Get a PhD in You, the You is You podcast, like the branding is so fantastic. How did this happen? How did you do it?
Honestly, the best answer I can say is, you know, I take good orderly direction, whether you call that God, the universe, the divine, whatever you call it, right? Infinite intelligence, great cosmic spirit, whatever that is, higher self. I followed the breadcrumbs. So, and it's interesting, I'm writing my next book now, and I want to say I'm writing all about overcoming imposter syndrome. And what has happened, I have been face to face with what I didn't realize has been imposter syndrome. And so it's taken a lot longer. And I realized I need to go back to handwriting. That is what works for me, is to actually get in that space of, you could call it, you know, writing, channeling, just, I like getting a journal with blank pages and writing. So the title, this is really what happened. I had done a lot of inner work, like probably many people that are tuning in and listening. I think many of us that are waking up that want to make a bigger impact, that want to share a message in our stories. And by the way, I really believe this, like if you feel called to write a book, if you hear that voice, that inner wisdom that says write a book, please do that, because there are people waiting that need to read it, that are asking for it. And I finally accepted that offer, that divine invitation. But I will say that after doing a lot of deep inner work, and that was through coaching and therapy and, you know, support groups like 12 steps and things like that, I had gone to a special support meeting. I was with a friend. This is probably 10 years ago. And I remember I had left it, and it was all about how to be with difficult people and maintain your center. And I walked out of that meeting, that session, and I said to her, is it okay if I swear?
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. I feel like I just did the PhD program in myself. I feel like these last 10 years, and now it's been 20, I really legit feel like I just got a PhD in myself. And then it hit me. I remember saying that to her, and I was like, why are we not doing PhD work on ourselves? Because we study everything else, and the most important subject you can really, really work on, study, give time and energy and love to, frankly, love up on, is yourself. You're with yourself the rest of your life, for your life, hopefully a long one. And it just, when I started thinking about what is it that I want to say, it like popped in. And I had a conversation with a friend who's like, you really should write about that. So it kind of been primed. And then when I sat down with a flower, I'm telling you, I just wrote I drew a flower, and it was like, that's it. It's like, you got to get a PhD in yourself, and here's why. And here's where the miracles come through. Because I do believe when you learn to really love yourself, and not like in a way that it's not about being perfect. It's not about, you know, getting rid of our past, or it's loving all of us, all of ourselves. And then deciding and choosing, okay, I'm going to, you know, design my life the way that I choose to based on my heart and my intuition. So that just felt so aligned. And it came from an inner alignment of just realizing this work works.
Let's go back, because you were talking about, you know, write the book, because there's going to be that somebody out there who needs to read the book. And there was, I think it was a podcast that I was I was stalking you on. So I was listening to you talking on a podcast, and you shared that there was a woman who got in touch who'd read the book, who said that she was adopted and that the book had inspired to get in touch with her birth mother.
Yes. Yes.
And so for me, it's this understanding of like, there's people who need to read the book. And there was something that you talked about, saying that you wrote the book with a desire to be of service. And so again, like, people who are listening to this, who are like, yes, I feel that too. I feel like I want to write a book that's going to heal others or be of service or impact the world. I feel like an important thing for them to hear you talk on is like, how do you stay clean with this? Because I can get a sense, and I've had this myself, where I'm like, I want to write a book to be of service, but I kind of also want to write a book and become famous. So how do you like get really clear with any wounds that might want to write the book versus like that higher self saying, I feel cool to put this book out into the world?
I have to say, it's okay to have that side that says, I want to write a book and I'm going to become famous. And it might be interesting to look at what's under that. What's under the wanting to become famous? Is it to be recognized? Is it to be appreciated? Is it to be seen? Because oftentimes what's under that are desires, core desires, things that we might be missing in other ways. It's also okay if really what you come up with is, I want to be somebody that's out there making a big impact. Like for me, what I kept coming back to, what helped me was to just picture all of these human beings. And I kept seeing women specifically that, maybe were going through difficult, dark nights of the soul like I had been through. So what can be helpful, and, we talk about this often in business, is finding that ideal client. I actually think really getting, and I thought when I was writing, who am I writing to? And I realized I was writing to almost a earlier, younger version of myself. I had a coaching client at the time who was in a similar situation. So I I wrote it to her and I wrote it to part of myself. And what helped me shift from, what could be a little more egoic, or that place of like, comparing and despairing and the fame and that piece versus service and heart, was to just keep imagining all of these women like myself who were waking up at 3 a.m. the way I had, and were really, really looking for some support and answers, and to know they're not alone. And to feel like, things can change. Because I've been there. I was on that other side where I didn't want my life to continue. I mean, I really was in a rough spot, and I remember. And so really getting that, you can't hear the message too much. And we never know how we're going to speak to the heart of someone at the right time. That's where, honestly, trusting the divine. And I had this image of myself writing, and these books I would just see it like, all over the world, getting to the right people. And I just would picture the divine, like the stars in the sky. Like I would throw the book up and I would imagine just like the stars in the sky, letting those books land. And it would be kind of my offering, my prayer, my, let this be of service. Let this make an impact at the level that, I did a lot of offering up, so that it wasn't just, how is this going to be an Amazon bestseller, which is fine. And these are important things for me though. And I would say this runs for everything I try to do. How do I first align at that soul level and make sure that it's coming from, my soul connecting with the other souls that are really looking for some help and support and answers. And I kept coming back. I just kept seeing these women, getting the book, working through the activities, reading through it, and feeling like, oh my God, this can change. And I kept coming back to that. And that's what helped me to get over the fears and the parts that sometimes, once you birth a book, there's a lot more to it. And that has helped me. And I haven't been perfect with it, but I will say, when you can just come back to service and making an impact and really picturing those people that, like the woman who read it, and oh my God, Gabrielle, I mean, to get that note, it changed my life. I mean, she said to me, Julie, in her 30s, she's like, I never thought I would ever venture to find my birth mother. She said, but this gave me the courage and the desire and the ability to just take that step. And I'm like, and it changed her life. It changed her life. And I thought, so if I had not written that book, I don't know. I don't know if she would have done that. And I've heard from others that have said this really helped me to change me. And that's what it's about. It's sharing from our heart.
I want to read the introduction to the book, and then I've got a follow-up question. So you say, "Hello, my new friend. I'm Julie Reisler." Like, it's such a beautiful opening. Your guide and co-creator on your most important journey down the stream of self-discovery. I want to honor you and applaud you for making an empowered choice to really explore what your potential is and how you want to express that potential in the world.
Love that you read that intro. And it's funny, I have to say, when I was writing it, I really was picturing people, you know, kind of at that deeper level, as soul friends, even, you know, people I don't know. Like, I really was picturing, like, I am seriously honoring you, because it is not the easy path to do this inner work. And I will say this, you know, I grew up in the States, in the New England region, where there are a lot of universities, very, very intellectual focused. I grew up, for those who've heard of Harvard, I grew up like right next to Harvard and MIT and Boston University, all those schools. And like the focus on intellectualism, which is fine and important, was very much part of my upbringing and my school. And there wasn't a lot of focus on, you know, emotional intelligence and looking at yourself and doing that kind of work. I think I had started the psychology club in high school because I was like, I loved observing people. This was like my jam, but I didn't know it. So I laughed because I did, you know, psychology, and I didn't want to be a therapist, and I was in the workforce. And what I think the universe said was, Julie, you're going to learn this through your life experience. Like, you're a learner through experience. And so for me, oh my gosh, I mean, I'll keep it short, but, you know, this deep dive inner work saved my life. I was somebody who really was driven, ambitious, like wanted to do well, wanted to get the A+, and really had not dealt with a lot of other, you know, emotions and things that I just didn't do well with, like anything in the emotion of anger, frustration, sadness, grief, doubt, worry. And I struggled, you know, I'm open about it. I suffered from, or dealt with food addiction, like shoving down emotions with food. I would imagine there are probably others that have dealt with that. And, you know, anything we use to not be in the moment, right? It could be TV, it can be alcohol, it could be anything. For me, it was food. And I remember I was, you know, married at the time. Life seemed fine. I had a job. We lived outside of Washington, D.C. at the time. Nothing going wrong. It looked great. I also was extremely good at this whole people pleasing, like making sure all seemed great. And I just remember I was in the car, and I had one of those, I don't know, outside of the States, if you have Costco, these are like these big, ginormous stores that sell like M&Ms in like 6-pound bags, which no one ever needs, but you might choose to buy. Like, they were the tie-dyed M&Ms of all things. And I'm like, I love hippies. I love tie-dye. I'm buying the 6-pound bag. There was some left over in my office. Like, I was all in. And I just had this memory. This is May of 20 years ago. I couldn't stop eating these M&Ms. I was really, really not feeling, but when I tapped into how I felt, I did not feel so connected to my job, to where I was in life, and ended up, you know, I couldn't stop eating them. And I remember I was in this moment of, I really considered driving into a tree. I really did. I was so, I just felt like I was living this lie in a way, like everything seemed great, and I didn't feel that way. So luckily I knew about this 12-step program for overeating, and I just happened to talk to somebody, and a family friend, who told me about a meeting. And I heard, this is the beginning of where my intuition started really cranking up. And I heard a voice that said, Julie, go to the meeting. If you go to this meeting, your whole life will change for the better. And I mean, it was like a split second, because I was so close. I felt so despondent. And the hard thing is, you wouldn't have known. I tend to smile, especially then. And so, and I don't blame anyone. This is part of my learning, but I did end up going back to this meeting, this program, and it's a lot of inner exploration. So anyone who's done any 12-step work or any kind of deep dive, it's excavation at the next level. And it just opened me up. And what happened was I started to realize the things that were out of alignment, and the things that I wanted to really change, and the things that I was willing to change. And that really changed my life between, ending a marriage to a really good person that just did not feel energetically aligned. I had 2 kids under 2 at the time, leaving a job, dealing with a health breakdown. I've seen the benefits, this work, working with coaches as well, changed my life. Those powerful questions. I was asked one question that changed the whole direction. So for me, this is like, I live and breathe it, and I use these tools, and I always have a coach myself. I always am working, on my interior, because that, to me, that's what I can, everything on the external to me is a mirror of what's happening on the internal. So, I would never want another woman, especially, and men too, and anyone, whoever you identify, would never want another human being to not realize that there's hope and that things can change and that they can design and create a life that that resonates. And I know what it's like to be on that other side of it. And I will say the gift has been the opening of my intuition, inner wisdom. And I believe that happens for all of us. The more we listen, the more we honor it, we pay attention. The gift is it's a superpower.
But there's something else that I'm curious about, like in this opening where you say, I want to honor you and applaud you. Now we know why, because you're like, dude, I know what it's like.
Yeah.
I've been there. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm just like, just so moved by it. And then you say, like the second part of that sentence, for making an empowered choice to really explore what your potential is. So I'm really curious, Julie. We can be in this place where we want the personal development. We want the interior designer for our soul because we're like, it's so shit. But then we can be in another place of like, wait, what's my potential? So I'd love for you to share, do you have a sense now, because obviously your potential when you started this work would seem very different to like what you've uncovered now. So I'd love for you to share as much as feels comfortable, the sense of the potential that you have today, now.
I love what you're asking. The way that this is how I see it for myself and for all of us, in all honesty. And this is why this book and the work I know you do, I do it feels so important to me, because I really feel like we come to this planet, to this earth, we're born, we're the acorn, we're the acorn. And you think of a gorgeous oak tree, it didn't start that way. It took a lot of nourishing and nurturing. And so to me, potential is constantly like the divine expanding. But it has to have a vehicle to expand. It has to have you have to be a cooperative component for that. And so if you have an acorn, and it's funny, I have one on my little altar, it's in the shape of a heart. It was one that I don't think ever became a tree, because I found it and I have it clearly. So I'm like, but I love it because it's in the shape of a heart. And I'm like, we never want to underestimate the potentiality that literally lives in each of us. And had I chosen not to do that work, if I had chosen, let's say I didn't go into the tree, but I didn't go to the meeting, or I didn't continue on that journey, I know what would have, I was living pretty unconsciously, and couldn't access. This is why I believe this work is so important, because where I was at a consciousness level, it wasn't bad, but I was so like the volume was down, and it was like turned off to what was going on within me. I wasn't paying attention or honoring it. I just wasn't. I was shoving it down with food, and then I was obsessing about body and food and and it just took me out of the present. When you say yes to taking that courageous step to opening up to your potentiality, what I believe you're saying yes to a path of exploring why you came here, who you choose to be in this lifetime. How do you want to be making an impact? How do you want to be having more fun, right? That was your intention. How do you want to, light up the world and yourself? What kind of love do you want to spread? How do you want to be more loving? How do you want to be that expression of the divine? And to me, that potentiality is in direct relationship with saying yes, with that empowering choice of, being daring to look under the rock. I was like that kid that I didn't really love bugs and crawly things, but like, I also had a friend that was really into them. Thank God for my friend Amy, who would be like, let's make mud pies and look under the rocks. I remember under the rocks were like, you know, worms and like spiders, and it would scare me. But once you look at it, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. Actually, kind of cute. I like had a pet, you know, I ended up having a pet worm, of course. I was that kid. So, but you got to be courageous to look under the rock. You got to be courageous to say, you know, I am going to go inside. I'm going to get quiet and present. And that really takes something. I know it does. I've been there. And I'll tell you, I just believe when we just take a few steps forward, you know, we have to be willing to be willing. It's a free will game, you know, so it's all about free will. It's up to you. That's why I'm like, thank you for doing this, because you are saying I'm choosing, I have free will and I'm choosing to open up and look. And I do believe the divine cosmic infinite intelligence is like, right on. I'm with you, sister, brother, like I'm with you. I'm going to come on in and show you who we are together. And to me, that's a co-creative process. That's kind of the game I'm in playing, is like, I want to understand my potentiality with my greater source, that divine intelligence working with me, through me. That's what I want to experience and see. And that's what I love helping other people to do. And I think with this book, my aim was, gosh, like, I'm here with you. You are not alone. I hope you can feel that through my words. I know it's a book. I'm not like face to face, but I just felt called. I literally felt a divine calling to just be there for people that felt they wanted that kind of support. And I've seen miracle after miracle, which I think we should start to expect. To me, that's like, divine does miracles. That should be like hashtag the divine does miracles. That's what that's what it is. And I've seen it in my own life more than I can even share here. And I've seen it with others that have done the book, but also done this work.
One of the things that you said in the book is sharing authentically is the best way to make a difference. So again, I'm really curious, and I know this will be relevant for people who are at that place in their journey where they're like, I'm serving people, I'm committed to my own inner work, and I certainly am asking this question for selfish reasons. How do you balance okay, guys, this is what I'm going through right now, but also being a leader to guide or to serve other people? Like, how do you negotiate that?
This is what helps me. It's not all the time perfect, but I will say, starting out every morning with some sort of practice that grounds you, that grounds me to myself and also to my higher self, to that greater divine force. It's like, I just feel naked and raw when I don't do that. And when I tap into that, whether that's through meditating or journaling or whatever those practices are, movement, and then anchoring in there, for me, you know, I think it's a delicate balance. But what I have seen, and I've seen this, and luckily, you know, being in the 12-step world and other support systems, it's all based on that authentic sharing. That's what has helped me in my own healing journey. And so I know firsthand it works when you share authentically from your heart, from that place of service, not necessarily to get anything back in return, but just to share, knowing that this might help somebody. So I think there's being comfortable to own what's going on with you and sharing from that place of, here's what's happening for me. And like I had said early when we started talking, you know, I always come from, look, not everyone's going to resonate. So you do want to, take what you like and leave what doesn't serve you. But also get, when you start doing this, if you're a coach, a consultant, if you're, healer, you're out there to try to make an impact, you are stepping into a leadership role. I guess for me, that leadership role, I never see myself not co-creating with the divine, in all honesty. So even me leader, whatever it might be, as long as I'm bringing in cosmic intelligence, whatever you call it, the universe, I'm really asking to be a mouthpiece, an emissary, a channel. That's how I look at it. And that is one of my prayers and offerings, is help me to be an emissary of the light, of something greater. That is really where I'm coming from. And that helps me to see this as, it's not just me, Julie. that's leading. It's actually me and something greater that is committed to love and harmony. And I stand for that. I'm so a stand for this planet changing and being a part of that. And I'm sure anyone tuning in is, because you wouldn't be here otherwise, right? Like the way, law of attraction works. So it's finding that connection for me, that co-creative connection to something greater, higher power, whatever your wording is. That helps me feel like I'm not on that ragged edge by myself doing this. And it also helps me to listen and tune in to intuitively what to say or what to do next. And you and I were talking about this even before we started recording, about sometimes that means pivoting, changing. This book I'm writing now, I have to say I have to get quiet because I had so many other people's ideas and thoughts, and I have to get quiet to hear, what does my soul, what does the divine, what do we want to write together? And sometimes that can take time, and it's about trusting and being patient and surrendering, and then appreciation.
I find myself in this place where I'm like, it's silent sometimes. Like, I put something out there and I'm waiting. I'm like, divine spirit, I give you full permission to intervene. Like, sometimes I'll say that I'm having a shocker of a day. Like, take me out of the driving seat. Like, you've got full permission to intervene. And I said that recently, and then I got an email with some news that saddened my ego. So some of that is about understanding, like, what I think I want. Like, whoa, thank God I allowed that intervention, because I was perhaps going to go down a path that wasn't aligned. Yeah. So I guess my question is, what do we do when nothing comes? And like, how do we hold that space? Because I'm very much in there now. Like, as I shared with you before we came into this conscious conversation, I've cleared the decks, because I'm like, folks, I'm about to pivot. I know it's going to be I'm like wide vessel turning. So I know I'm going to need a lot of space to pivot, but I've got no idea where I'm pivoting to, other than it involves like absolute focus on spirituality and freedom and tree goddessness. So what do we do when the intervention comes and we're like, holy shit, that literally took away the thing that I thought I was meant to be doing, or when there's silence?
Yeah, hold on tight. You find people like yourself, like that you love and connect with. You find someone who can hold that space for you, like a coach or a mentor. And I will say this, I really believe, look at nature. It is the best example of, I think, everything. There are times when this is, I've been in this many times. I'm in it a little bit now. And what can happen is our brain can come online, especially that left side that's like, you didn't do this, you need to do fear. I mean, we got it, it comes to, am I following fear? Am I following faith? There's fear and there's love, right? I think of faith kind of under the same, that loving space. And if you follow fear, don't be shitty to yourself, because it's very natural. Just know that that's probably not the choice that's going to truly help you in the moment. And that's where I have to say, I get it. It's almost, especially if you're on the entrepreneurial journey, expecting this. There's going to be, look, the best things that I found, I bet you could see this too, and I would ask anyone listening, like the best new programs or decisions or things that I did came from often that really uncomfortable space of like, why is it silent? Is it crickets? I put this out, no one's responding. I've had that recently, and I'm like, what is happening? And sometimes, it's, again, for me, what helps is going back to just understanding there is a divine order that my human brain cannot fully comprehend and probably won't. But it comes back to like that offering, that like what you said, I'm just going to trust you've got me, and you're going to put me in the game where you want me. You're going to make it clear I'm listening. And I think it's on our end, because we have free will. You can choose you can go back to bed, back to sleep. You can shut down. You can become unconscious, or you can stay awake and be in the discomfort. And it's not the easier one. However, I find it's the most rewarding. It builds endurance, and it builds strength, and it builds a sense of I'm always connected and tapped into something greater. And there are going to be moments where I am pivoting the boat. The vessel is turning massively, and it takes time and silence, and I get it. You know, I'm in that again a little bit now, and it's a little like, what is happening? And it just, the thing is, the more we do that, where we don't go back to bed, or, and I don't mean like really back to bed, but, you know, consciously we don't go back to sleep. We stay awake, we stay present, we stay in our heart. You're going to build endurance. And I'm telling you, the more you do this, the more I do this, the more it's like, all right, bring it on. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I know the universe has got some plan going on here. And, you know, shutting down, I know I'm ending a membership sometime soon that I've had that I've just kept hearing it's beautiful, but it's time to do something different. And community that I have, not my certification, but it's time to shift it. It's time to shift that group, that energy. And I'm not 100% sure what it is. I have that thought, but I'm waiting for divine guidance. And I always say, when in doubt, don't. Just pause. Just pause. It's good to sometimes be slow. Here, I'll show you. If I have it here, this is what I keep on my desk at all times, because my instinct is not to do the turtle energy.
Oh, yeah.
It's my little turtle, and it reminds me.
Yeah.
I love her. She's like, slow the F down.
Yeah.
Like, pause, slow down. There's something else guiding you, with you. Tune in. And just choose. Is it going to be fear or faith? Fear or love? What are you choosing?
Yeah, my head is like, dude, surely you need to do something. Wait, your calendar's very empty right now. And I'm like, yeah, because I've spent a long time working with my soul designer to redesign my life so that my calendar is empty to give me that space. And I'm really beginning to see that I'm beginning to sort of, like, it's interesting. Let me find the words for it. I'm almost beginning to sense that discomfort and be a bit like you, like be happy about that, because it means I'm doing space. I need it the old way, then I'm here, like to offer, but not get burned.
For something, it could be a coach, it could be a friend, it could be an accountability partner, it could be a book, it could be a practice, you know, a practice of communing with your higher self, with the divine, whatever that might be, however that might be. So it's okay that we go through that and feel that. You know, the piece I love that you just said, Gabriella, it's like, how am I going to honor, though, that I'm doing this differently now?
I want to come to make a final focus on the person that you feel ready to lead or to support. Like, I know you have a few gorgeous offerings. I know you mentioned that you're making a little bit of a pivot, but like, who do you feel your heart is calling you right now to serve, and how do you feel called to serve them?
You know, I really feel called to serve I call them my like big thinker, ambitious, driven entrepreneurial women who are heart-centered and soulful and want to have, really want to feel what it's like to have that balance of masculine and feminine energy working for them and connect to their greater intuition and divine and co-create with that to then show up as a light in the world. For me, the way I see it is as a candle. I would love to have like as many candles as humanly possible. I really feel like our world is, I believe, and I love men and I love transgender. Like, I tend to really, I think being a female and an entrepreneur and somebody who came from nothing, helping women that are really looking, that are entrepreneurial, because entrepreneurial means you're open-minded, you're willing to shift, change, and that have, you know, want to do big things here. I want to help support the big, brave dreamers and thinkers to really fully be who they chose to be in this lifetime. I feel like that's part of my, what's the word? I'm thinking of it in Sanskrit, but like my purpose. Yeah.
This has just been such a gorgeous conversation. Like, for me, I've been really, I mean, I know my intention was fun as pulled by this intention card. you got your deck?
I got my deck. I'm ready.
I love it, Julie. Should we pick? Okay, I'm going to pick mine now.
All right. I got my card.
This is my intention for the conversation. Oh, yeah. Should we answer one of these questions each?
Oh, I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So when did you last experience something fun in your life?
That's a great question.
It's your question.
I'm like, that's a good one. That's a really great question. I had a couple weeks of not feeling well, so I'm like, before that probably, although I did have, but you know what? I'm going to just kind of call myself out. This is going to be it's so minute, but it's not. I kind of forgot about TV for about 15 years of my life, and I had the best time. There's some shows that I got to watch, and my husband joined me, and we were laughing our head off, and just my kitty was like on my lap, and I'm like, this is so fun. And it's no big deal, right? I'm like sitting and watching TV, but it was actually a lot of fun. I would say that was one, and the other would be, I go to this, this Healing Waters at the spa near me, and I was on a hammock reading a book that I'm in love with, and just having a conversation with someone I'd met next to me, reading my book on a hammock. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How about you, girl? How about you?
So let me think. As you know, like what's coming to me, as you know, I recently bought a van. Like that was another unearthing of our time together as you were helping, as you were redesigning, interior designing my soul. So I made this connection with the forest, and I had this understanding that having a van was going to be my gateway to spend more time in the forest, and also like a beautiful salve to the burnout, this overworking that I was experiencing. It was like, get in the van and just like drive away from the desk, drive away from phone signal. So last Friday, I took a day trip in the van. I was like, the van isn't just for overnights or trips or weekends away. I was like, let's do a day trip. So I took a day trip in the van to literally like a minute down the road.
Oh my God.
And I drove up the hill. I drove up to the top of this hill, just literally a minute away. And I went with my dog, and we just had such a special day. I had like my favorite snacks in there. I had my book. I was creating some content. I was going through some old journals. I made a vlog about it as well. Like I just had such a fun time. And I was like, I'm literally a minute away from where I live, but it feels so special. Sam and I, my dog and I, we did some like training and some tricks together.
I love that. And I love what you're saying is it was a minute away, and it was all about the environment, the way that you created this like, extraordinary, beautiful, elevated moment and day. It's gorgeous.
It really strikes me that we can be like a little bit like you. It was fun just being with your family and just watching a bit of TV because it's not something that you do. Like we sort of have this idea of like, it's got to be expensive or big or majestic, like, perhaps because we've become desensitized to fun, like rather than sort of take it right down to the micro. So I think it felt like a really beautiful reminder to say, you don't have to go far. Like a van trip can be like it felt like an adventure.
Okay. Should I ask you a question?
Let's do one from your card.
Okay. There's a couple here. How can I add more time and attention to what I can appreciate in my life versus finding what's not working? You've
caught me in a place. So basically, we had a full moon last week, right?
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't realize. So it was my time of the month, which can usually be a little bit meltdowny for me, a little bit like everything. There's so much to be in despair about. But usually I'm okay with that because I'm like, oh, this isn't me. This is just my hormones. But it was so intense last week, and I only just found out it was a full moon, and it was like, mate, get a calendar, like make sure you know when there's a full moon. So I really went into a place of despair last week, and I was really focusing on the negative, really focusing on like what's not working, So this question is such a great reminder to actually create the time and the space to be intentional about what you're appreciating. And so what did happen last night is I had a conversation with a very dear friend who also happens to be a coach. We did our training together. She's in my soul pod for sure. And she enabled me to do that. She enabled me to really look at what there is to celebrate right now rather than the negative. And so what's coming to me actually is it's so easy for me to be on my own, like it's totally my comfort zone, but to actually seek out conversations with people and to sort of use, to remind myself, like when you seek out conversations with people, these could be conversations about what there is to appreciate. So that's what's dropped in, like literally sort of set intentional connections with people saying, should we have let's have an appreciation conversation tonight.
I love that. You know what I just heard is appreciation parties.
So what about you?
The practice I have right now, and I'm like, okay, so you do that. I'm like, how can so when I wake up, I started this about a year ago. I'm a daydreamer, like a legit, I like to let my eyes lose focus and stare at the window. And I love doing that and kind of just running through what I'm appreciating. So I love, I actually been doing a lot with my body, my muscles, my tissues, my bed, I'll just go through. And I love starting the day like that. I often though forget to do that during the day and in the evening. So I'm going to sit with this appreciation party idea. I'm like, I think I'm going to make a little list of like who's invited and have some parties, more conversations. I love that, Gabriella. And, my husband and I have done this before, and I'm going to ask him to do this together when we go to bed, just to do a few appreciations together, like what he appreciates, but I can do it myself, which I love to do too. But I think there's something about, poor guy, I'm like, you're going to do this with me. Sorry, is how it's going. And he's like a good sport, but I'm like, just going to make it a new, like, that's our ritual. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're going to bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I do usually go to bed with my hands on my heart. And I think what I'll do is make sure that's part of it. I end with my own self, because I really believe the most important relationship is with you and just kind of do a little rundown of what I'm appreciating in myself for that day. So I'm going to end within myself. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, Julie, I'm going to do that tonight. Like when you just said I go to bed with my hand on my heart, I was like, could I be any more in love with this woman? I think so.
Feeling is mutual, my friend. Oh my gosh. I love it. But the most important is with ourselves. It really is. So
you might have interviewed this person recently, and I cannot remember their name, but they have recently written a book about self-love.
Oh, yes, Matt Kahn?
Yes.
Yes, I love Matt.
He may have met, because I haven't watched your interview with him, but he dropped this gem in an interview. It was a Sounds True interview where he basically said, self-love is not a consolation. And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
I just absolutely loved that. And I feel, Julie, that I have actually got to that place. Like I've been, my whole life I've been so afraid of being single. This is the longest I've been single.
Yeah.
4 years. And I would have been in like panic if someone had said to me, in your 40s, you're going to be single for 4 years. I would have freaked out. But I honestly feel like I've got to a place of just such joy and happiness. Like I even did find myself saying, this was a few months ago, I even found myself saying, I may even be okay if in this lifetime I'm simply doing the healing work so that I can have my twin flame in my next life.
Beautiful.
But I was kind of on the side being like, I hope that's not the case, but I could possibly even be okay with that.
To me, that is what a gift to really get. To me, what I'm hearing is, a partner would be nice, but what I'm hearing is you are so connected and loving of who you are and the life you have and exactly as it is right now that it's not to be happy, to have fun, to appreciate your life, all of these intentions we've pulled, that's not necessary. Self-love, like he said, to me, it's non-negotiable. And you are living that, breathing that, being that. And what I'm hearing is just a full embodied love and appreciation for yourself. That is to me, that's the goal. That's it. That's success. If you want to know what I actually think is success, truly, that's why I wrote that book. That is the whole point, is to come back to yourself. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're living. And that's, to me, that's our goal, right? Is like to really, truly live and love and honor ourselves so we can do that for others.
I don't want this to end. But yeah, thank you so much for being with me. We will put your details below, because there may be that one person, that female entrepreneur who wants to be heart-led, who wants to have that balance of the masculine and the feminine, who is just like, give me some more of this, Julie, which was exactly what I felt when I discovered you. So we will put your details below, and I freaking celebrate you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation, which, by the way, I never want to stop talking to you. I'm like, what? How did we just go for an hour? It feels like we just snapped our fingers. And I want to honor you for really choosing to be living in your most conscious, awake, loving life, and just being that fully in who you are. You're one of the most authentic, generous, genuine, loving people I know. And I'm so grateful to be part of this convo today. It was awesome to talk to you. And hopefully we were of service to others and added beautiful value.
Mine starts with an F.
Oh, I feel like I know what it is.
What do you think it is?
I feel like it's fun.
Yeah!
Funny, I know this deck. I kind of know this deck a little bit. Do you want to guess what mine is?
A. Abundance.
Ooh, no, but I love that. It's in the realm of that. You want me to tell you?
Yeah, because the only other thing I can think of is arse, and that's definitely not going to be in your attention card.
It could have been like badass.
Oh, yeah.
Badass, you're hysterical. It is not ass, and it is not abundance, but it is something I think that is like the cornerstone of having an amazing life and being connected in is appreciation.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you.
That's what I was just feeling before we started is, oh my God, I really appreciate that I'm here with you. I get to do this today with you.